Hey guys, this is Lindsay, and I just kind of wanted to show you how to use the CEREC system at Davidson County so that more students are able to utilize this. So what I'm doing first is I'm first adding a patient on the scanning machine, which we should all know how to do, adding the first, last name, birth date, and you will add which doctor you are working under. And this is the first thing that pops up after you hit the CEREC app on the scanning machine once it's turned on. You'll then come to this screen and it'll ask you what type of restoration you're doing. You want to make sure the crown is selected, and then I kind of leave the other two selections the same. You want to pick the type of material you're using. I'm pretty sure the one I selected was IPS CAD, but the box will tell you exactly what you're using. This is Ivoclar that we use at Davidson. So you'll select your material that you're using. This is me just trying to figure out what material it is. But once you have that selected and all of the different materials and shades are up in a cabinet beside all of the CEREC machines, and the assistants can show you where that is. And then you'll select the tooth number that you are making the crown for. You'll select that right on the model on the screen, like I'm doing here. Okay, once everything is selected, you will proceed to the acquisition, which is where you will actually scan the model. So we're starting with the upper jaw. For this specific model, I am scanning for number 15. So I'm starting with the upper jaw. And I'm just going to scan that, making sure that I have all the necessary coverage I need. So I need to make sure that I have the adjacent teeth completely so that the contacts will be accurate, and I need to make sure that I completely capture the margins of the crown. Yep. And you'll be scanning, of course, in the patient's mouth instead of a model, but this is just for practice. And while we're waiting on myself to scan that, the staining and glazing, which we will talk about earlier, is also in the cabinet beside all the CEREC machines. The assistants know where that is as well. So we have staining and glazing and a whole bunch of different options for the actual restorative material as far as shades are concerned. So I'm analyzing this. I think I go back in to fix a contact area. I don't know how to cut videos in this app, or I would. Okay, once I'm satisfied, I'm going to move on to the bottom jaw. And for this, of course, you just need to capture like the occlusal surfaces so that we can get good adaptation of the crown and a good bite registration. So you don't need to capture as many areas on the opposing. And then lastly, we'll take the bite registration. So you'll just select that. And make sure you get a good scan of the bite. Another side note while I'm still scanning this, all of the machines are already connected to each other, so you just have to turn each one on individually. And then you'll start, of course, with the scanning. So you'll turn on the CEREC Omnicam and select the CEREC app on the screen, and it'll bring you to that first screen that I showed you where you have to add or select an existing patient. And then once I'm happy with my scans, which I think this was it. Yep. I will move on to the next phase, where we will design our crown. Once we get to this phase, there's going to be a lot of different parts, like setting the model axis, trimming the model, setting the path of insertion. And if you get a good scan, a lot of that will already be completed for you. So like mine was already pretty much completed for me. I'm just at the point where it wants me to draw my margin. So you'll see, I don't know if you can see it here, but there's tabs with check marks beside it. That means they were able to fabricate a good like byte registration, occlusal, or model axis and everything on its own without manual manipulation by myself. So it brought me straight to the margin design. And so now I'm going to select the magnetic selection instead of manual and use that to help me draw my margin around the crown. You have to double click to start it and double click to end it. And then once you're done using the magnetic margin tool, then you can move to the manual to clean up any like stray areas that the magnetic might have picked up, just to clean up the margin nice and good. And as far as like all these little tabs, they're very easy to switch to back and forth if you need to adjust something, and you can always go back to the acquisition phase and rescan if it looks like your scan is a little inadequate at any point of the design process. I'm being really picky with this margin. There I am going to the manual to clean up any areas I feel like were a little inadequate with the magnetic margin tool. And then really quickly, just to tell you what exactly the machines are that we have the CEREC Omnicam, which is the scanner. And we also have the CEREC mill. It's like the MCXL, I believe. And then we also have the CEREC Speedfire, which is where we are going to bake and glaze our crown after we mill it. Okay, going to the next step now, the design phase. It will fabricate a crown for you and you can make adjustments to it. This one actually adapted pretty nicely. I didn't really mess with the occlusal because it had blue and green, didn't have any red areas, or it had dark blue and light blue. It didn't have any green or red areas. Usually I would take the smooth tool, which is under form, I believe, at the very, very top. If you look to the top left corner, that little white box, at the very top, there's a form tool. And you can click on that and it'll give you options to add material, subtract material, and smooth. And I like to use the smooth tool to kind of reduce any areas that are a little high. That's just me checking the occlusion with the top and bottom model in, and now I'm checking the contacts. And you'll actually see me go in and select the smooth tool to reduce the contacts down. You really want mostly blue with a little bit of green on the contacts for a nice snap. You don't want too much green and you don't want any red, or else they'll be too tight. And if you don't have any green, it's just blue, the contacts are probably going to be too light. So just a little bit of green is a happy medium, and that's where I'm going, trying to keep green, but also smooth out a little area of red that I had on one of the contacts. So I'm just adjusting that here. So like I said, in the top left, looking at the screen where I'm messing right now, is the smooth add and subtract material tool. There's also a little tab in that same white drop down box where you can change the anatomy of the crown, like bring it up, bring it down to fit the models. And then in the top right white box is the upper jaw and lower jaw selections, and that just turns it on and turns it off. So if you click on the upper jaw, it'll put the upper jaw back on the crown. And if you click on lower jaw, it'll bring in the opposing. So you can check occlusion again and how the cusps kind of fit together. So I'm just still adjusting that contact area. But with this, that's all I really needed to adjust. They made a pretty good crown design that needed minimal adjustments. That's me putting on the top and bottom jaw, like I just said, just checking it again, seeing how it looks in comparison to the other teeth, checking, the height of contour, stuff like that. Okay, and now I'm moving on to the manufacturing phase. So this is where it'll show up in the block. We told it earlier what type of material we are using, and here in the white drop down on the left side, you can select the shade, basically. So it'll tell you which mill you're connected to, and I think the number for our mill is like 107, and it'll say ready if it's connected. It should just automatically connect by turning on the mill. So you'll have that connected, the 107, and then you'll select your shade that you want. And there's also a selection for the speed fire. You want to make sure the speed fire is also selected and ready for manufacturing. Once all of that is selected and you have your sprue in the place that you want it, which there is a selection where you can change the position of the sprue. You just don't want it to be on the margin. But once you have all of that ready, you can click start after you put the block in. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm putting the block of Emax into the prime mill before I hit start. And when you place the block in the prime mill, I think I might show it earlier or later, you put it in until it falls into place, and then you take the screwdriver, which is located to the right of the prime mill, and you will tighten the little screw beside the zirconia block. So here it is. All I had to do was turn it on. This is me about to place the block. So I'm putting the Emax block in its position. Then I'm taking the screw and tightening it. This is on the right. It's on the right in person. It's on the left on the video. But once it's nice and tight, I close it and it's ready to begin. So I'm going to go back to the scanner and hit start. And the prime mill will now receive that information. Another cool thing is that it'll tell you when the burrs are about done, and it'll also tell you the life of the burrs on one of the settings. But if you do need more burrs, they are located in one of the drawers. I think I might show you here in a second. One of the drawers below the prime mill, or the MC XL mill. And there it goes. It starts milling. It takes it about 11 minutes to mill. And there's me showing you the extra burrs in case we need to try it, in case you need to switch them out. It takes it a second to start because it has to like measure the block. And there it is. So when it's done, it will separate the sprue for you and just fall to the bottom of the mill so you can open it and grab it. This is it afterwards. We have to bake it still. So to bake it, we go over to the speed fire and select our job. So we're doing number 15. We're going to click crystallizing and glazing. And now it will open for us. And we want to place the crown, which will be purple until we fire it. We're going to place the crown occlusal surface down. So we want the margin up. Yep, so face down. And then we'll hit the start button. Takes about 24 minutes to fire. And once it's done baking, it will come out and be super, super hot. So it'll have a timer counting down for how long we should leave it. So I didn't record the glazing part, but as soon as it's done baking, you'll stain it. So I just put a little bit of brown staining on the occlusal, as you can see here, before I glaze it. And we have spray glaze, so you just shake it and spray the glaze onto the crown after it's been fired. So stain first, glaze second, and then you put it back on the table of the speed fire and hit continue job now, and it will put it back up and glaze it.